And we do have a series layout coming your way in just a moment to talk about. Is it going to be anything jumping out that you're looking for that really will push it forward for either of our team?
It's just pushed forward for Optic throughout the entirety. They have the most wins on Stronghold's Interference across the league. They have the most wins on Slayer Recharge. They have the most wins on Oddball Livefire. And they have the most wins on CTF Aquarius throughout the entirety of the HCS, alongside both Formal and Lucid featuring as the main Slayers for every single map and mode I've just mentioned in these four as well. It's not looking great for Complexity.
So you're saying they have a chance on Slayer Solitude?
Slayer Solitude, Formal has the most kills in Slayer Solitude in the league, but Optic don't have the most wins, so maybe that is the opening. But you look at the win rates, if there was one map for Complexity, maybe Slayer Recharge, that's their best win rate out of all five, but like we're looking below 50% for all of the other four as well. And
with Complexity, how they performed already against Quadrant, we'll keep harping on about it. The game that they lost was the Slayer. So they beat the on the three objective game types. They were incredible. They did not. They put Quadrant to the sword. It was easy. Now, them losing the Slayer and wanting to beat Optic in the Slayer, I feel like that's the tough ask.
Yeah, it definitely is a tough ask. I think what we're getting from this series layout, it is heavily in Optic's favor. This is going to be very difficult. And I also think there is something to be said in the mental battle looking at this series, and Cole can see what the series layout is before they get on the main stage. They're going to be thinking, oh my goodness me, how are we going to tackle this? You know, Gaskin, when you're thinking about that battle for them, you know, how can they now even try to approach this series? It's going to be very difficult.
I mean, we say it quite often. One of the good things about having a series layout that doesn't favor you is you almost feel like you've got nothing to lose, but also you'd hope they've been putting a lot of time and practice into the game types that they know they're going to face and they know that Optic are good at as well. So there is always that chance that they could disrupt them. And if Optic do lose this series, right, then we start to ask questions, and then they're not looking like Optic Gaming, and suddenly everything's looking a little bit like doom and gloom. So we will learn a lot from this series. Either Optic continue their dominance, or are we going to see another tournament where Optic aren't at first place?
If there's someone who can cook up some gnarly strats, it's going to be RyaNoob.
It is.
So he's probably, you know, already done some VOD review on Optic on all of these, probably knows exactly what you were talking about in terms of the series layout and who it favors. And I hope he's just got a rebuttal. Has he got some kind of counter strat up his sleeve for Optic? Will he know what they want to do?
I think one thing we have to focus on is the GAs. We know they exist, and Optic Gaming, let's not beat around the bush, one of the best teams to use the entire arsenal of weapons that you have available in Halo Infinite. With some of those being taken away now, not being able to use the assault rifle, not being able to use the Bulldog, what happens to Optic Gaming? So the series layout looks great for them prior to the GAs, but now it could change here. So I guess that's the opening for Complexity.
Yeah, there's a lot of big questions actually cooking up. I think there's a lot of changes that have come about, meta changes, like you said, the GAs, huge things. I do think that the meta change might favor Optic in terms of their playstyle, slowing things down just ever so slightly more. Tactically, strategy-wise, they are probably one of the leaders in terms of tactics and strategy. We often do see them have openers for certain maps and modes, which is really impressive as well. It's just about whether or not another team can combat that, and having a really early start is going to be so important for Complexity.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two sides of the coin when it comes to the meta change. Like you said, you talked about the GAs, which may work against Optic, but then you also mentioned with the Bandits slowing down and that favoring Optic styles. So I think it's going to bring Optic exactly where they were before. We know what to expect. They always have just fantastic teamwork. You always use the term as close to a perfect team as possible, because that's what it feels like when you're dealing with a team like Optic Gaming. So if they're firing all cylinders, they could win tournaments. This is going to be a great test against a battle-hardened Complexity who are looking extremely good right now. That win off a Quadrant, I don't think that was just a fluke. I think this is the Complexity saying, we are not the same team that you saw at Atlanta. This is a new us. We now actually have some scrims under our belt, some great practice under our belt, some great tournaments as well, because you can't cheat that experience. I think Complexity are going to test Optic a lot better this time than we saw in Atlanta.
I think game one's going to be really important. Interference, strongholds, it can be a snowball-y kind of game type, and if Complexity don't find their footing very early and they lose, but they lose convincingly too, let's say 250-50 or something along those lines, I can see the series getting really ugly and really quickly. So I want to see them being competitive in game number one, because that, for me, is where the series pace is going to be set. Thanks so much, lot. Dan, Optic Gaming up against Complexity. This game one, we already spoke about it at great length. It's going to be massively important for Complexity, and maybe just as a pace setter for Optic Gaming.
A bit of a wait, but the crowd quite rightfully giving a cheer, because they have been waiting to watch a little bit more Halo and they've been waiting perhaps to see Optic Gaming on their screen. Second place at Atlanta, always the bridesmaid and never the bride. Will this be the tournament that they change things?
Deadzone scooped up the battle rifle, got moving.
He didn't do the thing.
You did. I didn't do the thing because
do
you took so much time there that you stole it from me.
You didn't do the shield.
It doesn't feel right.
All right,
to do
okay.
it now.
Well, we'll save it for another game.
Yeah, I suppose
all right,
that's what
I'm
we'll have to
sorry,
do.
I guess.
Well, we've made people wait, so we can make them wait for that too, perhaps. Or maybe some people are happy that I haven't done it. I'm sure we'll hear all about it one way or another. 3 dead for Complexity. But they are scoring importantly. Overshield has just popped up. TriPPPeY interested in it. Can he lock it into his chest? The answer is no. It has dropped down. Did it fall off the map or is it on that catwalk?
Yeah, if it's on the ledge, and it is on the ledge, you can see Breakingshot just had a little peek towards it, and he's going to try and grab it himself. Formal trying to be a sneaky beaver to maybe stop that from being picked up, but now we are going to see Complexity not only in the lead, but also have an overshield to work with as well. AB in control. C will be their next focus point.
Beavers aren't sneaky.
How many beavers have you seen?
Maybe raccoons are sneaky.
How many beavers have you seen that you can try and claim they are not sneaky?
In my lifetime, I have not seen a single beaver.
Take it up with Chris Puckett, that's all I'm saying. 4 dead on the side of Optic Gaming, and Complexity. For all the talk, I was saying that, you know, the series layout, it just leans towards Optic Gaming, but with the meta changes, with the slowdown of the Bandit, with suddenly all these GAs, Complexity find themselves very much ahead here.
Breakingshot tucking himself in the corner. Lucid did not clear his angles. Unfortunately, that means a pretty routine kill. 2 down on the side of Complexity, 1 for Optic. This triple cap is still locked in, and it is locked in tight, and you know Optic are desperately trying to get a foothold in this game.
Complexity are 90-0 up, and RyaNoob's only just got his first kill. That just shows what the likes of Breakingshot and Rayne have been doing, and Huss, I guess I'll mention all 3 of them, just around the map to really force Optic back and just trap them at any stronghold they'd be spawning themselves over towards. And now they've got another overshield. This has gone from bad to worse for Optic Gaming. And Lucid, for all I was saying about how he is the biggest, the best Slayer statistically across the board in the league right now, yet to find a kill.
You have got to stop saying things.
Just a curse.
Because you just curse everything now. It's bleeding through to everything. RyaNoob, though, with the commando, double kill locked in. He has been looking pretty good all Friday morning. Now Rayne, Engine 2. Optic still yet to register a point on the board. The longer this goes on, the mood will very quickly dip.
I think what's even more impressive about this current scoreline is Optic Gaming have played this map in mode 5 times in the last 2 tournaments. Complexity have only played it once. They have not had that same kind of tournament experience, but you wouldn't know it with how they are currently dominating Optic Gaming right now. Another triple cap locked in, and Optic have just not woken up yet.
And I spoke about it before this game started. This one can be snowbally. Although we might have assumed it would be Optic Gaming in the ascendancy, Complexity have come out and they are looking like a different beast here in SLC.
I mean, Complexity looking to try and gobble up this group. They already took down Quadrant, and now they're trying to take on another team that wears green. Still yet to have these strongholds being broken. And Optic, they've tried every single avenue, and now Deadzone's even getting naded by his own teammates.
Deadzone over towards long haul now. Applying pressure to Breakingshot. Maybe interested in getting a trade. That's ultimately what he has to settle for. Huss and Breakingshot on the respawn screen. What can Lucid do? He is currently sitting at 1-4-7. This is not the kind of performance we expect from Tommy Wilson.
4K camera on his face, though, doesn't look phased at the moment. They do manage to overturn this, and finally Optic Gaming will be scoring. So can we see a similar amount of control? Overshield is going to be popping very shortly. And if Optic learned anything from Complexity, it's really what you can do with that overshield and how aggressive you can be to try and force them back off spawn.
This is the thing about this map. When you do get control, even if it is just 2 strongholds, you can really start applying pressure, putting teams on the back foot and dictating where they spawn. And right now, Rayne's getting this overshield absolutely melted away. It didn't have any sort of impact or influence on the game. B is being contested right now. Rayne will ultimately fall. Better from Optic Gaming as they continue to score, and nobody seems interested in resetting B.
Well, Breakingshot, 17 kills at the moment. Did just get taken down by Deadzone, but Tony brought him up on the desk saying he's just one of those players that can find those routes, can find those avenues to try and get behind you, and at the moment he has just been so successful with his routes. Has found a lot of damage off the back of it. That has resulted in kills. But this is where you worry about Complexity. I said you have to be ahead, right? In every single game, you've got to stay ahead of Optic Gaming. You can't allow them to gain control. If Optic were to flip this result and suddenly take the lead, then how do Complexity respond? Their breaking of setups is certainly where they need work, and that's what they've been working on, it would seem, during event to event. But at the moment, they can't quite get to B.
Strongholds really is a game of cat and mouse, and I promise you it is a lot more fun being the cat than it is the mouse. And at the moment, Complexity are not scoring, but they are interested in capturing A. They've already got control of C, so now Complexity begin to score again. And they're hoping to hit the 200-point threshold very soon.
I like this. He used A as a little bit of a distraction, and Huss very quickly recognizes there was an opening towards B, so now they will continue to score and close in on those 200 points. And now Overshield suddenly becomes the focus for everyone on the map. But Breakingshot, just so much confidence at the moment, wanted to challenge Lucid, needed help in the end from Formal. Formal will pick up a double, which actually is going to be probably the biggest kills of the game so far for him, as it will be followed up with one more in the Overshield.
I don't know whether you noticed, but when the camera was on Breakingshot, he was strafing whilst his character was strafing. That's how immersed he was in that fight. Formal has got to make this next choice very carefully, and it has got to be the right one too. Breakingshot's got a couple of kills in the feed. He is going to fall. RyaNoob face to face with Formal help though. Rayne will get the kill. And they are closing in here on a game 1 victory.
Yeah, this would be massive for Complexity, especially when you do look at that series layout and how it was trending to favor Optic Gaming across the board. It just shows that Complexity have been putting in that time between events, and they really want to make a statement here in Salt Lake City. 241, they are really about to put this one to bed.
Optic Gaming were the most successful on this map mode combination all year, but it's Complexity who claim the first win, and that was pretty routine.
That was pretty unbelievable from Complexity, especially that initial start when they got 160 points unanswered, and Optic just couldn't break through. Complexity watching every angle, making sure that those strongholds were perfectly protected. And I mean, Lasher, wow, I mean, what a performance that just was. Unbelievable from him.
I think Tony mentioned that
Breakingshot, excuse me.
Breakingshot, it's just too many shots.
Too many shots.
Yeah, shots everywhere. But the performance he put in, Tony spoke about how he does the dirty work sometimes, and some things don't show up on the stats, but we've seen there, he was having unbelievable timings. He seemed to have the read on the map perfectly.
I mean, 22 kills in the end for Breakingshot. At that point, you're asking, do you want to give some to someone else on the team? But plenty of assists coming through from the rest of the squad, in particular RyaNoob putting 11 on the board. I know we joked at the start that he hadn't got a kill in the first 100 points, but he was certainly putting down the damage to ensure that the likes of Breakingshot could find those kills on the board. But it was a game of just Optic struggling to regain any control after losing it at the start, and then back-to-back overshields. There was moments where maybe Optic thought there could have been a comeback. Complexity took a short while to break the setup, but look what it means to them. And Complexity need that, right? They need that belief, they need that hype behind them, and they need to use this now as momentum going into map 2.
Now perhaps they have the wind in their sails. This is where they found themselves against Quadrant, heading into the Slayer 1-0 to the good, Dan. Now, we spoke about the series layout, and you said it heavily favored Optic Gaming. You said it was probably going to finish in 3.
Yep.
Now Complexity have got that first win under the belt. Maybe stats don't actually matter.
Well, it's important for these stats to be presented, because then you can recognize how well a team is actually playing. Complexity are overperforming, and you could argue Optic now underperforming here in this first map. And when Lottie was asking, you know, where do we see an opening here? I said map 2, Slayer Recharge. There is a chance, you know, that they could be 2-0 up against Optic here in this first series. And when you look about the history between these two teams, Complexity in the last 5 matchups as an org have not been able to take down Optic. This is certainly an opening, having a map lead.
Having a look at the Slayer records from HCS Atlanta, 6-5, 4-4, so very much anyone's game, as the title does say, Dan. But tell me, we speak about confidence and how it can affect one team or another. Optic Gaming would have expected that one to go their way, and now they find themselves down, but Complexity on the other side of things, like we say, the wind now in their sails. Yeah,
I wonder what questions are being asked in the Optic camp at the moment. You know, a slow start for them all. You just need to pick your heads up, lift that chin and say, look, we take it. Complexity are a fantastic squad. They've been practicing a lot between Atlanta and now, and clearly a very different squad than we faced back then. It was a 3-0 when they previously went up against each other in Atlanta, but that is definitely changing now because Complexity have already found a lead. Can we see Optic actually get back into this one?
It's so indicative of our teams in the league. You have a weakness, you go back to the drawing board and you fix some of those problems, those errors that you made in the past, and you ensure that you do not do it again. After the opening break, 3-2, Camouflage has been burned. That's good for Optic now, because they have a 3-kill lead. And this is the concern, because this is what happened to Complexity against Quadrant. When they went down by 4, or 5 indeed, they never really got themselves back into it.
I think a big focus is going to be Lucid for this game, right? I alluded to it in the pre-ramble. There was a lot of ramble.
There was some ramble.
There was a lot of it, has to be said. Lucid has the highest amount of kills on every single Slayer map, apart from Solitude, which Formal holds. Lucid has been the Slayer king throughout this season, and he's already found 4 kills, uncontested, make it 5. And that's going to be difficult to shut down here for Complexity.
Killing spree for Lucid. Formal finding faces. This is the bounce back that you would ask for if you are a member or associated with the Green Wall. And as he pushes down long haul now, Huss is going to slide over towards Whirlpool. Formal, you filthy animal. He is starting to cook.
Complexity won't really know what corner to turn because there could be Formal waiting with the shock rifle when he lights another up. Almost made it 3 back-to-back, but he's used all of the ammo. That's what's important. 6-kill lead now for Optic Gaming. But this is what you expect from your heavy hitters. Formal and Lucid, they are in the team to do this, right? They are the Slayers. You look to Deadzone, you look to TriPPPeY for more of the assist, more of the objective work. But in a game where they were just completely overrun on Stronghold's interference, you'd be expecting an answer here in Slayer.
What an answer it's been so far. Rayne over towards Glass. He will be pushing over towards long haul. He will now have the information of exactly where Lucid is. RyaNoob has slid in, got the kill and the camouflage to boot, so maybe they can start to make inroads and eat away that deficit.
And if you're Complexity, you just want Breakingshot to have the same freedom to roam, to breathe in this game as he did in the previous. So you want to be looking to lay down as much damage and say, look, if you want to go on a flank, go on a flank. If you want to take a route and feel like you could do some heavy work against the side of Optic Gaming, then take it. Don't restrict him here and allow him to just fly. Spread his wings.
Something I've noticed with RyaNoob, particularly when he has camouflage, he just does reconnaissance. He's quite happy to stand still and just ping where players are. He's not going to be caught out by a player sitting in long haul. He clears his corners, but unfortunately for him, Deadzone gets the kill anyway without taking too much damage on his shields, which means he can push forward and have an influence elsewhere, which is cleaning up the kill in tower. Perfect work from Deadzone.
I think that's what's important, a player like Deadzone, right? In this scenario where you really want to give the freedom to Lucid and Formal to be getting the majority of kills, to be taking those 1v1s. When you are presented with a 1v1, you have to win it. You will not have that many opportunities of a 1v1 when you are playing in this way alongside teammates like Formal and Lucid. But Deadzone does just that. This is still a very tight game, though. Even though it was a brilliant start for Optic, it is only a 3-kill lead. And Complexity will know that. But this is a somewhat slow matchup at the moment. Both teams just kind of sussing each other out a little bit. Reluctant to just full-on sprint at one another. But again, this is what happens when the Bandit is slowed down a little bit.
Well, we spoke about it. Stylistically, these two teams are a very good matchup for one another. They both have a similar philosophy in how they play the game. Not willing to throw kills away. Try and minimize risk-taking. Formal goes down in tower. Breakingshot dies elsewhere, as does RyaNoob. So that means Optic Gaming then to put further distance between them and the boys in blue. Shock rifle for Lucid then. Camouflage has been scooped up and it's by TriPPPeY, so they've got all the goodies.
All the goodies, but can you actually get anything done with them? Breakingshot is going to be the first target. He's been so fearless, by the way. He has not been scared of anyone. So many times he's just burst out and challenged, and I think that's exactly what Complexity needed. They needed a player with that kind of lack of fear. Because he can just hurtle himself forward. He can throw himself into the enemy sightlines. And now Complexity, they are within 2 here, and they've just recovered a shock rifle.
Look at the aura of Rayne's camera. Just a silhouette. The odd flash here and there when the screen lights up. Hoping to lock in here for his team. Gets one. Look at the lineup, another one onto TriPPPeY, but he steps away and evades for the moment. Formal in tower.
Oh my.
TriPPPeY goes down. A victim to the shock rifle. Rayne's happy to do the damage and back away. Playing patiently, again, minimalizing risk.
Darth Rayne really looking like a different kind of beast right now. He's got this weapon in his hands. But just notice how he is not overcommitting. He is just gaining a little bit of info from the rest of the team. You know someone who will overcommit, Breakingshot, but it doesn't matter because he's been playing so much out of his skin right now that I think Optic Gaming might even fear that he might be hurtling himself around a corner soon.
Optic all trapped in towards blue. It's gonna be easy pickings then for the Complexity boys. Damage has been done. TriPPPeY goes down. It was 4 dead for Optic. They're gonna spawn over towards gold now, long haul. And Complexity have the lead now. And what is that doing for the mental of Optic Gaming?
I mean, this is crazy from Complexity. The start was unbelievable from Optic Gaming. They were looking like they were in full flow state. Lucid and Formal both absolutely slapping Complexity around, but Complexity slowed it down and said, look, let's not just give them what they want. Let's not push aimlessly into shock rifles. Let's make this more about strategy. And now they've been able to find themselves tied up 38-38, and they've just given Breakingshot a camouflage as well. This could bode very well for Complexity.
And this is just it. You win game 1, it's okay, you've won game 1. You win game 2, now you have our attention. And they just seem to be spotting out these players who are hiding in corners. They are not being caught out by Optic Gaming's ratty plays.
Breakingshot doing so well to listen to the rest of the team. He gets that initial kill, and then he pushes off the back of it because he knew they were also heading this way, and now they have a 2-kill lead. The real question is, do Complexity start to feel the pressure a little bit? Because you start to think, hey, actually, this is very winnable, not just this map, but this entire series with how we're currently playing. And Optic have now slowed this down to a crawl, and they are being pegged back here by the Complexity boys.
That's how Complexity have been playing this, taking space, standing still for a moment, doing damage, and only when they feel like they have the opportunities and they have the advantage, do they push forward. They've been playing this one almost perfectly. But Optic Gaming are still there, frustratingly still there. This plasma pistol has been ever present in the hands of Breakingshot, and he's been putting it to work.
16 kills for Breakingshot. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of him this event, and we are going to be saying his name so much on this desk. 46-41 now, Complexity in full control. And it's looking ever likely that they might be taking this second map and taking a lead. What do Optic have left?
Heading into game 3, I think if I'm Optic Gaming, I put in the chat, GA plasma pistol, because Breakingshot has been using that more than any other weapon right now. Really making Optic Gaming hurt. And they are just 2 kills away from putting Optic Gaming on the massive back foot, putting them in the same position that Rebellion were in. Complexity only need 1 more kill. And will it come at the hands of RyaNoob?
RyaNoob does have the ability to just lurk around this camouflage and maybe use it as a little bit of a distraction here.
Playing it patient, playing it slow. Has the camouflage now. Delaying the pop. Formal on triple stack. Trying to stay alive, but he cannot do so. And Complexity do double their series advantage.
And there was a roar as well from RyaNoob, as Complexity find themselves 2 to the good against Optic Gaming. 2nd place across the last few events. And now they are currently 2-0 down in pool play against the Complexity who finished at top 8. And again, is it a case of Complexity overperforming or Optic Gaming underperforming? In my eyes, maybe a little bit of both from what we've seen so far. Optic not able to hold on to the lead that they were able to find at the start of that game, but it was Complexity's, the way they just wrestled that game back. And again, a lack of fear. They weren't scared. They are not worried about who they are playing against. They are not worried about who is on the opposite side of that stage. There is no respect being shown with some of the pushes, and I love it. That's how you should play this game.
Showing no fear, like you say. And really putting some sort of testament to the saying, finding ice. Down in that game for large portions of it. Got the power weapons, got the power-ups, and really started to tick. Got kills, but more importantly, stayed alive, Dan, and made themselves really frustrating to play against.
As we look back at some of the highlights, I mean, Optic were up by 6 at the start of the game, and they were up by 4, and then it was only just a couple. But then it was around when Complexity were able to wrestle back that shock rifle, wrestle back control, and really take the lead against Optic Gaming. And I am surprised. I would be expecting Optic to kind of run away with the lead that they had. But you mentioned it, Complexity would just do a little bit of poke damage, and they would wait, they would communicate, they would coordinate, Complexity now are probably starting to think, hey, actually, this is for the taking, not only Optic Gaming, but this entire pool. Essentially, if Complexity were to beat Optic Gaming here, sure, we have another team arriving from the open bracket, they would steal their seed. They would then be the second seed pretty much going into the rest of the tournament. That does wonders for your bracket. Instead of you playing a potential SSG going into the winner's bracket, you could be playing an ITB, a Quadrant, for example, one of the teams that are floating in that top 8 area. This is huge for Complexity, but we do then go into Oddball Live Fire. Now, I talk about statistics, I talk about this series layout was so benefit towards Optic Gaming. They have not lost Oddball Live Fire all season long. If they lose this here, then I really do start to ask those questions about how this meta has developed, and with the GAs, has that truly been what's hurt Optic Gaming here, or can they use this now as a stepping stone, as a platform to get back into this series?
My concern is the stats have told us that Game 1 and Game 2 were only going in one direction. Game 3 tells a very similar story on the stats sheet.
Well, a slightly different story. Look at that. I mean,
a similar story, not the same story.
It's all right. Oddball has been, without a doubt, Optic Gaming's best mapping mode. They are the best Oddball team so far throughout, statistically, and you can see their record throughout the season. And here at Atlanta, it was 5-1 back in Atlanta. Excuse me, 68% win rate. On the flip side, for Complexity, it was very much not 27% win rate, and this is what I mean. Going from Atlanta, that had a very different meta to what we see now. If Complexity were to win here, you start to scratch your head.
Yeah, I think something you said, cool kids mentioned being checked, and Optic Gaming can be victims of that, Dan. Find themselves down 2 in the series. Would you be worried that they might be heading towards Checkville?
If this was their second game and they'd already taken a loss, then they probably would be heading to Checkville, wherever that may be.
Tennessee.
In Tennessee. It's in the United States. Okay. I think because they still have a follow-up game with Quadrant, Optic Gaming won't be too concerned right now, and they are ever professional. I mean, you were looking at 4 of the greatest players in Halo Infinite on your screen right now, so they know they can get back into this one. However, Tony mentioned it, he was kind of watching scrims, and you hear a lot of the communication that's going on and some of the losses that went down in scrims, and it hasn't exactly been the happiest of camps leading up to this event. And you really want a win on the board in this first series so that you can kind of throw all that away. Say, yeah, scrims doesn't matter, online doesn't matter. We're here at the tournament now, la-di-da, we are still one of the best teams in the world. But now you are facing a Complexity squad who just want to take you down in a 3-0 fashion and say, actually, this group's ours.
I think you mentioned it slightly, is that when there is some turmoil and some animosity in a camp, and winning really is the best medicine to try and solve that. You can paper over some cracks as long as you're winning and things are going your way. Now down by 2. This is when the real questions are going to be asked from Optic Gaming, because I'm not sure we've ever seen this in pool play.
I mean, we've seen slow starts from some of our top teams, right? But
Optic typically skate by.
It's, yeah, not usually your Optic Gaming, and especially with a series layout that does heavily benefit them, and now an Oddball Live Fire, which they've never lost. Oddball in general, which they have the highest map win percentage across the league. If they were to lose here, I think Complexity will just be really a team that we have to turn our attention to for the rest of the event. They go from a top 8 finish to now suddenly winning both of their early matchups here in pool play.
They're looking at the stats between Breakingshot and Lucid.
That's unbelievable.
Incredible. You would expect somehow, some way that those pictures would be flipped and in reverse, and that's the stats we would expect to see. But such is the performance that Breakingshot is putting on here.
Lucid has been the best Slayer event after event after event. So many accolades behind his name of how he performs in terms of slaying ability. And as I mentioned in the previous game, every single map on Slayer, Lucid is #1, bar 1, which Formal currently holds. So he just gives it to one of his teammates. And Breakingshot is absolutely doubling his performance right now. And I think we have to give credit to Breakingshot because he has been unbelievable, arguably the best player on the map. And he has a chance now to send Optic Gaming into what could be a spiral here in this event.
Well, you mentioned there, our Complexity overperforming, Optic Gaming underperforming. What we can say is Breakingshot is performing out of his mind right now. We load into game number 3. Complexity 2 to the good. And just 1 away from putting our second seeded team to the sword, but this one looks like a false start, Dan.
Yeah, either that or a really interesting starting strategy that I was very much confused by. But yeah, we'll get that one reset for all of these players. That allows us just to gas up Breakingshot a little bit more, doesn't it, going into map 3? But God, they must be on top of the world right now. I mean, especially Breakingshot. I mean, there was a lot of pressure, I feel, on him when he was added to this roster. I mean, there would have been a ton of people who said, you know, Breakingshot should be given this opportunity. He is a player who can definitely break onto the scene, but now he is not only, you know, a part of Complexity, but he is now putting them on the forefront of a series where they arguably shouldn't even be close in.
And if you talk about, you know, wanting to cause the upset, Dan, you need players like Breakingshot to have a performance like this, because not only do you get the kills that maybe you shouldn't be getting, but you then take space for your team and you put confidence in them as well. Complexity so far have been playing incredible, already getting the 3-1 victory over Quadrant. This is a Complexity that we have not seen before.
And I think I mentioned it on the desk before, right? You've got Rayne, who, you know, had the previous event, was able to get back into things, and Complexity looked okay. They looked good at times, but top 8 finish. You could say the same for Breakingshot. He, you know, he's had that event to kind of get used to the nerves, get used to the pressure once more, being on the main stage against some of the biggest players. And now he doesn't look like he cares. He looks like he's playing from home. He's in full recline mode, right? He's got his monitor from home. His mum's bringing him a cup of tea. He doesn't look like he is fazed by the fact he is on this stage right now.
You know RyaNoob is loving every single second of this. Because in the past, he's had some back and forth with Formal. I remember not so long ago, he was teabagging. He ended up getting beaten in that series, and Formal had some choice words to say for him, but you know if they win this series, particularly in a 3-0 fashion, he's going to have some things to say.
And as I said, in terms of like seeding and how this could really change things if we were to see them go on to win this 3-0 here, or even just win the series. It doesn't have to be 3-0. They obviously have a really good chance of winning it at the moment. Complexity would then play what, the likes of Quadrant or Sentinels when you go into the winners bracket. You know, your 7th, 8th seeds that are up there. Like, there are so many openings for Complexity playing in this way, but also I think other teams looking at this, how many times have we been through this in events where one of the biggest teams just has a really crappy day to begin with, and the whole bracket gets shaken up, and then suddenly you see FaZe dropping out at top 6, or you see someone having to play each other in the early stages, a Sentinels versus FaZe for top 6, which we've seen far too many times. And this is what's so beautiful about this game, and with the changes that we've seen as well, it just shakes things up.
That's it. I mean, we have an idea who is going to win, but we never truly know. And we've seen it in the past with the likes of SSG, then losing to LVT once upon a time, upsetting a whole bracket. But how many times have we seen an underdog get themselves into a situation where they're 2-0 up, but head on to get reverse swept? And we're hoping that maybe Complexity don't find the same problem here again.
Will Complexity make this 3-0, or can Optic Gaming begin to get back into this one? We will find out shortly. But at the moment, I'm enjoying this fly-through. Live fire, it's
cinematic.
It's a staple now, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. Once the tried and true home of Optic Gaming, but things have changed recently.
Well, certainly, I mean, the way that Optic have played so far, you really have to ask the question of, are they going to be able to recover mentally? And there is only one way to find out, and that's about getting into this action here and now. Complexity, though, I just want to watch Breakingshot throughout this entire game. I'm going to be completely honest with how he's played so far.
Currently seem to be having some issues with the score. So we don't know who's winning, or even if this game is going to count. This could just simply be testing the server down.
I'd like to think it's live, but we will find out, and we will keep you updated. For now, just enjoy just seeing people shoot at each other. I do think that this result, if it stands, right, if Complexity are able to take down Optic Gaming, you look at the predictions, everyone was saying, oh, you know, well, Optic Gaming, some people were saying first, some people were saying third, some were saying fourth. No one predicted Optic to come second, because you just felt like this event was going to be different. And I think this is evident of that. Already with the 2-0 scoreline is evident that this is going to be a very different result from Atlanta. And the changes that we've seen, the GAs that have come into the equation have just shaken everything up.
Now, we can only expect that because the game has gone on so long, that this is actually going to be a live game, and you and I are just going to be guessing who's winning. So that's going to be exciting.
I mean, we'll get a good idea. I'll just watch the players and see who jumps up at the end and who celebrates. But for Breakingshot, this could be his, you know, coming to age moment, couldn't it? When you look at Halo history and you look at players that have had those tournaments where suddenly they came to life and they were able to use that as a stepping stone to either bigger teams, better teams, or they then had that moment with said team. You look at the underdog story. I wonder if we're starting to see the very beginning of this with Complexity, because they weren't in anyone's predictions for the top 4, and I think if you said that this is in the top 4 for Complexity, you are probably a liar or a Complexity fan.
And how many times have we seen this story pan out? Breakingshot or X-player, played FFAs, played in the open bracket, eventually got his spot on a top team. He seems to be his trajectory seems to be trending on the upward side here, Dan.
All right, so getting confirmation, this is a live game. We apologize at the moment, we don't have any more but what we are seeing on our screens, so we will try and guide it through as best as we can. I can tell you that right now, Optic have 22 kills and Complexity have 21, so there is that. I have that knowledge.
So close in the slays.
Close in the slays, but for the score, I can't really allude to that.
Let's just assume it's close in the score as well.
That would be the best way to go about this one.
That's all we have, really.
It sadly
We're
is
making it up as we go along here,
go
folks.
So currently, Complexity are actually up by 43 to 14 is what I'm being told, so it is an early lead for them. And that could be the beginning of the end, right? What was one of the things I mentioned right at the start of this ramble? Optic Gaming can't afford to go behind. Complexity just need to continue to stay ahead. Force Optic Gaming to be out of their comfort zone. Don't allow them to set up. The best oddball team, with an asterisk, before the updates was Optic Gaming.
And maybe that makes round 1 here so important for Complexity, just to ensure Optic Gaming can't get built up and ahead of steam. So Complexity win round 1. That could be a statement of intent here, that we're about to see the cleanest of sweeps Complexity against Optic Gaming.
Gonna be honest, this is a new one for my career.
We've seen some stuff.
I've been doing this for 8 years.
A long time.
But this is a new one for me. And sometimes you just have to roll with the punches, folks. Appreciate everyone bearing with us. And of course, we'll give you the results as they come in.
One thing we can say is we're all in this together.
Everyone, we should just start holding hands, I think.
That would be nice. My hands are a little cold, though.
All right, we're starting to see Optic Gaming get a few more points on the board, is what I'm hearing. Be like a radio cast.
Maybe we just blacken the screens.
We just check
Just
it.
make it up as we go along.
We just hope at that point.
We'll just cast from behind their screens, I think. We go to the main stage and cast from there.
I mean, one thing I can see, I do have access to the API, and I can see that Optic are leading in the slays now. They're 37 up to 32, so they're starting to really dominate in that aspect. And I think it would be such a shame if Complexity were to throw this opportunity away. Because I know it's only pool play, and we have seen teams struggle in pool play and then come back and go on to finish top 3 and probably even win in a tournament with how things have gone on previously. But I think if Complexity were to throw away this series, they would look back and say, all right, we really should have taken that opportunity and just grasped it. And I'm not saying they are going to throw it away. There's no evidence that they will fall to that trap. But I would have been expecting, if you showed me the series layout, which you did.
We did show you the
You did show me. I would have
You were
said,
speaking about it at great lengths.
This is the one map in mode that Optic should definitely not lose.
Again, the stats were really leading us down the garden path here. Maybe it is. It's as simple as the changes in the GAs have really just made Complexity that much more competitive. Maybe they figured out some things.
And like that was where I stepped to, right? I sidestepped and I said, yeah, the series layout should be a dominant one for Optic Gaming.
Yeah, you sat in the fence. You sat in the fence, you did. You played devil's advocate.
I said, however, we have seen the GAs. And when the GAs came into place, and if you are watching and you didn't realize that any gentleman agreement has been made between players, we no longer see the assault rifle in play, we no longer see the shotgun in play, we no longer see the heat wave in play, and even the disruptor got taken away. No one wanted to have that and have the fun with the disruptor. So we are going to see a lot of the sandbox, which Optic Gaming arguably were one of the best teams at using said sandbox, are now restricted. But remember, they also agreed to these GAs. Everyone did, all these pros did. They opted to play this way, so they only have themselves to blame if it hurts them.
I'm just happy that the Needler managed to keep itself in play.
Somehow the Needler survived.
And we're
Dave
happy.
Walsh is happy.
We are happy about it. Sniper rifle has changed hands.
Good from you.
Whilst we watch RyaNoob on the floor.
That's good from you.
And RyaNoob back up again.
By the way, I mean, when you look at RyaNoob and what he's been trying to do as a player, always we've seen RyaNoob try and build a team. He has Rayne, then doesn't have Rayne, then brings Rayne back. Now finds players like Breakingshot, gets Huss on the squad as well. Maybe this is finally the formula that RyaNoob's been searching for. And oh, I think Complexity have won the first round, everyone. They've taken it. I saw that happen.
You think?
I saw the fist bump. You guys see the fist bumps happen, right? Okay, good. So Complexity leading 1-0, and they are now 1 round away from taking Optic Gaming down here in pool play. And I would love to be a fly on the wall for the Optic Gaming dressing room after this, but at the same time, not sure I would.
I'm not sure I would want to be, because it's not going to be a very nice place to be.
And if you're Quadrant watching this, right, you've just lost to Complexity, and now you are looking at an Optic Gaming who look pretty flawed. Do you take this opportunity and say, hey, maybe Optic are for the taking here, and maybe we can still get through this group top 2?
Well, I think when you start to at least ask the question, perhaps we weren't as bad as we thought we were playing against Complexity, and perhaps they've just been performing that well. They're now putting Optic Gaming, one of our top 2 teams, to the sword. Like you say, maybe Optic Gaming are there to be beat.
I feel a little bit like Optic right now. I feel like I'm being put to the sword here, but I'm
being put to the test.
Trying my very best to stay composed.
I can also tell you that the score was 71-45 in round 1 for anybody interested, so it was a convincing victory.
So Complexity not able to get the full amount here in Oddball, but that does show that it was closely contested, of course, as I would expect from Optic Gaming. But, you know, we spoke about it. Are you checked out now at this point if you're Optic? Do you just say GG and go next? Because it isn't the end of the world if Optic do lose here. We have to mention that because they can still go on, they can beat Quadrant, they can still finish top 2, and they still will go into the winner's bracket. But it's how detrimental it can be for your mentals for the tournament going on from here.
Well, I think you mentioned it, right? Now all of a sudden they might be the team that can play an SSG and, you know, or a FaZe, or indeed a Rebellion. That's the concern that they will have now, and particularly with how they are playing. There is cause for concern that they maybe come up against a team who are a little bit hotter than they are right now.
Complexity are up at the moment, 12-5, so not many points have been scored so far. But Breakingshot is still doing Breakingshot things, by the way. 17 kills at the moment, alongside RyaNoob. They are both the biggest slayers in this game. On the other side, for Optic Gaming, TriPPPeY also has 17 kills. Formal has 19. So Formal trying to step things up for Optic to get them back into it.
And we mentioned how important round 1 could be down if Complexity won it, and they did. We have just not seen Optic Gaming come out flat like this, ever. Sure, we've seen it in the past from other teams, but never has it been Optic Gaming. They have always been tried and true, consistent to the core. People say they're the most consistent team in the league. The second place finishers will support that thesis. Camouflage has been scooped up, and it's been handled. RyaNoob takes care of business. The more they get those kills, as we get a little side cam of the score. So that's
this is creative, and I like appreciate this, by the way.
I like this. This is needed. Oh, it's gone!
I've never been so happy to see a scoreline, but for Complexity, you can see the way they're moving around the map, or most importantly, RyaNoob, and the way he's moving around the map is just confident. Again, like, I think they've got to this point now where they are not scared of Optic Gaming, and they are happy to challenge them in every aspect of this map. But Optic do have a lead right now. You would have seen it on that screen. Can Complexity recover this one and just sweep this completely and have a 3-0 victory against Optic Gaming?
I never thought I'd say this. I really missed the crosshairs. Ball is down, and there to be played. RyaNoob attempted to, but the grenade blew up at his feet and ensured that would not be a possibility for him. Optic Gaming have the ball, and they have a tower set up. That's important to get themselves back into this game, but more importantly, the series.
Formal has 23 kills right now, but RyaNoob has 21.
Who is this RyaNoob, by the way? Where has he been?
48-12, you can see on the score for Optic Gaming. So Complexity behind in this round, and time-wise, still 2 minutes on the clock. So still time for Complexity to work this one back. But we very much could be here, right? And we say Optic Gaming are 1-0 down in this round. They are 2-0 down in this series, but perhaps this could be the turnaround and suddenly they reverse sweep the entire thing. We have seen that happen in Halo history.
Yeah, I think if they get one round back, all of a sudden we could be thinking about a 2-2 and we're heading to a Game 5, and we know who we're going to favor in a Game 5. It's the big dogs. When they are tested, they typically have the ice.
Steadicam man earning his money today. Have to respect it.
There's the Steadicam. Optic Gaming increasing that lead. And the Slay is still very evenly matched, only separated by 8. Optic Gaming who hold that lead. That's indicative on the scoreline as well. Plenty of time for Complexity to get back in this round though. 1 minute and 33 if I squint my eyes.
Oh, RyaNoob. RyaNoob trying his best to recover this ball for Complexity. But right now you can see that it's still Optic holding this one, and they do have a setup over towards Huss. RyaNoob does get a couple of openers though, and almost makes it a double. That could have been the break that Complexity needed just to stop Optic running away from this one, because with only 1 minute 20 left on the clock, we are looking like it's going to be more likely 1-1 here on Live Fire Oddball.
And when we're on Ryan's POV, there's little to no hesitation in the moves that he's making. He seems to be in complete flow state. As he heads into house, ball's been dropped. It's going to be a little bit of a tussle, a little bit of a scrap, and an Optic Gaming man comes out on top. So it's an 88-point lead, I want to say, Dan. But again, I'm doing a lot of squinting. But
It says 86, but it was a good try, and you are close enough.
8s and 6s look close enough.
I don't have my glasses, and I can still read it, but I'm using the screen close to me.
I am using the far screen.
Yeah, that's the mistake that you're making. But it looks like Optic might be able to take this second round, and Complexity going to really struggle from this point to get back into it, but they still will have a third round to work off. And there's the confirmation. So Optic Gaming tied up 1-1. Could this be the beginning of what would seem like an impossible comeback for Optic?
We are just having the permanent RyaNoob camp, and I'm here for it. Such is the performance he's been putting in all day.
I mean, stats-wise, RyaNoob is leading the lobby. 23 kills right now, only followed by Formal. Actually, no, sorry, I lied. I can't read either. Formal's got 29 kills right now, so he's leading, but RyaNoob leading for Complexity. And I wonder if, you know, just being this close for Complexity within touching distance of 3-0ing Optic Gaming, that also sits in the back of your mind as well. Well, we really hope we're not that team that Optic just suddenly reverse sweeps here.
Because we've seen Quadrant put themselves in this position often enough against Optic Gaming.
Yep.
And get reverse swept as well. And particularly it always seems to stem from an oddball, because the game type goes on just a little bit longer and you're forced to make more consistent plays. That's where you fall short, and all of a sudden you go down when you're up 2-1 and then it's 2-2, and you start to really feel the victory slipping through your fingers. 12-3 now. Optic have hands on ball. RyaNoob playing this one patiently.
Yeah, RyaNoob will just call that out as well to the rest of the team. I will say communication's been on point for Ryan, and actually the way that Complexity have reacted to communication throughout this entire series has been brilliant. RyaNoob even yelling across the main stage now. If RyaNoob's getting loud, you know you are struggling as a team. He really does like to rub it in your face when he's finding any sort of success, and one of my favorite players in the league. I have to say, I love players that do show the passion, whether they're behind, whether they're ahead, it doesn't matter. I just want to see players having a good time.
He is never short of passion. That's one thing that you can say for Ryan.
FYI, on the little pip there, it is Complexity in red, so they currently have a 25-12
why not,
lead.
Dan? Why not flip the colors as well? That's the kind of day we're having. 25-14, so it is Complexity that hold the lead here, contrary to the colors above your screen. Ryan's going to fall. And the ball will remain in Optic Gaming's favor now. And they do have the option for a play ball, I would hope.
Still plenty of time for Complexity here. They don't have to panic. Yes, they've lost the ball, but RyaNoob just full sends it over top middle, and that is dangerous. It maybe has opened up for a flank from a teammate, potentially. You can see on the outlines there is a teammate that has just got the job done. Maybe the ball got played. But I think if you are going to commit so heavily to top mid, you have to be communicating that to a teammate. There needs to be a flank going alongside it, because otherwise you're just going to put your team at a 3 versus 4 disadvantage. Something you're very guilty of, Shurs.
I am. I really am.
So am I.
I do favor a flank as well. Something that actually was incredible to listen to, as I got to listen to an interview with APG, and he spoke about how sometimes when you're making pushes, you count the grenades that are being used against you. So you know that your push might be a little bit more successful now because you've counted the nades that the enemy has used. And maybe that's something that you have to take into account here, particularly when you're pushing tower.
Yeah,
over
just
top middle.
relaying that information as well, of course, to the rest of your teams, so that they also know that maybe they're going to have a more comfortable push. For example, over Nest, right? You push Nest and you are always going to be vulnerable to grenades, but if you've counted enough nades, you know they're not coming. Well, maybe you can make that push across. Now, Complexity have a lead, 44-32 here. And maybe some ball control, and maybe this could be the beginning of the end for Optic Gaming in this series. And that really would be something. You know, I've alluded to it. The stats were all in the favor of Optic Gaming, especially Oddball. And it will tell us the biggest story is this update, and certainly the GAs maybe have just changed everything we know about Halo Infinite.
I mean, even right now in this game, Optic are actually outslaying Complexity. It's 119 to 104, making that 120 now, as Optic have gotten yet another kill. But it's what Complexity do when they have the advantages, when they have control of the ball. They minimize the mistakes they make, and they maximize the amount of ball time that they can get from the objective.
I mean, Formal has been slaying out of his mind so far in this game, by the way. RyaNoob also doing the same job on the side of Complexity. I mean, we've been seeing on our screen the amount of engagements that RyaNoob has been able to find success in, but Formal's just hit 40 kills. However, they are close to losing this series 3-0.
I mean, every player on Optic Gaming right now is positive, with the exception of Deadzone, who is -1. And they find themselves down in the round and down, equal in the game, but down in the series, excuse me. So, a lot of work to do for Optic Gaming here, but not out of it just yet.
That's not good. We'll see what happens there, but Complexity did have the lead. And certainly Optic Gaming struggling. And this is, you know, this is going to be so difficult to come back from if Optic Gaming do lose the series 3-0. And I really would love to, you know, chat with the Quadrant boys and see how they're feeling about coming into this next series as well, if they are to face Optic in this matchup.
All of a sudden, you might be thinking this isn't the Optic Gaming, the beast that we're typically used to. But then again, maybe Optic Gaming come back in the next series more irritated than ever, and they poke the bear. Complexity do have the ball, and they're rotating. And they've got tower control now. And they must have a pretty significant lead here from the way the game's been played out.
Yeah, I think maybe some sort of issue there for Optic Gaming. We will find out, we'll get confirmation, but at the moment, it was a Complexity lead. But I think we are going to have this one maybe reset in this game. So we'll see what happens with confirmation, but certainly we saw something was weird there for Deadzone. But we'll let you guys know when we find out as well. Apologies, and thank you for sticking with us for that game. We tried our best. I think you did a really good job, honestly.
You didn't do it too great. You could have done with picking it up, to be fair.
I could have done better?
Yeah,
you haven't even done shields up, weapons hot yet, so
That's
I'm not
your
talking
fault.
to you.
You just took so much space.
All right, whatever.
You didn't allow me to breathe. What we can say is round 3, we'll get it figured out as to who has the lead, how many seconds that's going to be by, but perhaps Dan will get a crosshairs and some overlay back.
I mean, that's what we'll hope for. I mean, what we can say, with 100% security here, Optic Gaming not looking like the Optic that we saw in Atlanta. Optic Gaming not looking like the second place team from the previous events that maybe could be looking for that first place as well. Instead, they look like a team a little bit dejected, a little bit lost. Again, early days, it is just Friday. Complexity on the flip side, look like a completely different side, but for the better. Breakingshot arguably having his best event yet already with the first couple of games so far. Statistically, an anomaly, but a good anomaly.
And you then wonder, you pose the question, just what is the ceiling of this Complexity team? Finishing top 8, getting eliminated by ITB last event. Are they now looking above and a top 6 finish? Are they trying to challenge the likes of Rebellion and Pure for a top 4? Such as the performance they've been putting in, particularly today. They look like a different beast, a different animal. And Optic Gaming the same, but for the opposite reasons.
Well, we'll have a moment to get everything sorted, of course, between these two teams and give you that information when it arrives to us as well. But this has been, I mean, quite the series for various different reasons. But certainly one thing I can tell you, I mean, I have to give every bit of credit to Complexity with how they've played and how they've prepared for this event. In scrims, they looked successful. I mean, in online tournaments as well, Complexity did look like a different team. To go from top 8 to then be competing in this way against a team that's finished second place for the last couple of events is really just indicative of how well rehearsed they are and what a team that RyaNoob's been able to build and the vision that he had when he put these 4 players together.
I mean, you talk about online performances. People will say online results mean nothing. One thing we know is they don't mean everything, but they definitely mean something. And they're translating the optics, the performances against the likes of Optic from online to LAN as well.
So confirmation in our ears, we are going to be restarting that 3rd round. So it will be 1-1 between the 2 teams, and Complexity will have a lead. I believe it was 70-40. So they will continue the lead they had before the issue arose. We'll have to see whether Complexity can close this one out now, or with this brief pause, if Optic had the opportunity just to say, guys, let's lock in and focus up, because we're about to be going 0-1 in pool play.
Yeah, you'd expect that the reset button would have been pushed long before now. And if they've really started to have that conversation when down 70-40 in the final round of oddball before being clean swept, there would be concerns and there would be some problems. I think only down by 30 seconds in this round, so definitely doable, Dan. But then again, any mistakes that they make from here on out, they don't have too many more mistakes to make before Complexity do complete that clean sweep.
And for the rest of the tournament, the teams are going to be looking at this series, and you're going to have the big teams, or the bigger teams, excuse me, you know, SSG, Shopify, which, by the way, actually, at some point we'll find out what happened to Shopify. They were 2-0 down against Cloud9. What's happening in this tournament? SSG FaZe licking their lips, saying, all right, Optic maybe are here for the taking here, but if you are one of the top 6, top 8 teams, you're saying, actually, Complexity suddenly are going to be surpassing us with a performance like this. I think this might be the craziest results that we see at an event so far this year.
I mean, you talk about how FaZe and SSG might be looking at Optic saying, oh, they're there for the taking, but maybe there's another thing entirely here. You ask, are Complexity now going to be a problem for us? Beating Quadrant so comfortably, now appearing to do the same thing to Optic Gaming. There's reason to be concerned.
By the way, confirmation elsewhere, Shopify Rebellion are back into it. It's 2-2 against Cloud9. So they were 2-0 down, and they are now back into it, and it's going into a game 5. So maybe that's something Optic can play off of here. Maybe that's a little bit of hope they can have that they won't have any idea about. But
you think they've taken their headphones off? So what's the score of that Rebellion game? 2-2? Right, let's do that, actually.
No, they definitely wouldn't even care, because they are going to be very focused on the task at hand. Well, that man on your screen was playing Halo 2 last night.
Second place, actually.
Second place, actually.
him and Elamite.
Just Optic Gaming just can't catch a break.
Yeah.
Always second place.
Playing against Walshy and Strongside, by the way, who finished first.
I do want to say something, right?
I'm listening.
Walshy and Strongside were practicing leading up to that.
They wear their sweaties. Sweatbags.
And I don't think anyone else was practicing. But we'll go into that a little bit later, because there's fist bumps. You know what that means. The game is going to be starting. And fingers crossed, everything will be on our screens here. Because this has been just an absolute blinder that we've seen from Complexity so far. Very unexpected, especially with the series layout at hand.
I feel like we've been blindsided, flashbanged by this performance from Complexity.
I mean, Optic have as well.
Yeah.
I think they're going to be feeling the same way, saying, where has this Complexity team come from? Where were they last event when we 3-0'd them? Where were they the event before when we 3-1'd them? And the event before that when we 3-0'd them? Optic have always had the number of Complexity, but maybe is a passing of the torch here as we get back into the game. And ladies and gents, good news. We have a scoreline to work with, but Formal starting right back from where he left off. Remember, he had like 40 plus kills before we left this game. Can he be the one to lead the charge to get Optic back into this?
I think he's been trying to lead the charge. The Slays already say that. Perhaps looking for a little bit of help from the rest of his teammates. Maybe Lucid can turn up here. Sniper rifle overlooking camouflage, just getting back down. A sliver of shields left. Huss dives in the window, gets the sniper rifle control. Oddball is there to play with as well. Reminder, they only need 30 seconds here. There is 5 minutes to play with, so Complexity can't use the clock as a difference maker here. Optic have it all to do.
Well, they do shut down the camouflage. That's something for Optic Gaming to work with here. And you can see they are very quick to push and press and not allow Complexity too much ball time. You can't allow them to just get that scrappy time and slowly but surely scrape their way to a 3-0. Remember, Optic Gaming have never lost this map in mode all season long. And they have the highest win percentage on oddball in general across all of the maps. Complexity have a chance to turn all of that around in their favor. 81-68. Breakingshot, who has been unreal so far this series, and he looks to carry it on.
Complexity really turning the screw here. And they've got the setup they want. Now the next couple of kills go their way. It's going to spell disaster for Optic Gaming. This push has got to be flawless. It's got to be perfect. They've lost a couple of kills. Complexity closing in on a clean sweep against the green wall. 1 second required, and they get it. Complexity, clean sweep, the green wall.
What a result that is for Complexity, and what a moment for those gentlemen on your screen. Sure, it's only pool play, but now they have the opportunity to top this pool, steal that seed, and arguably have a far more favorable bracket as they move forward. On the other side, though, for Optic Gaming, questions have to be asked. What happened? A series that looked good for them off the back of tournaments where they finished second place after second place, but they just couldn't get past Complexity.
It's the Texas rivals. It's Complexity who have come out on top for the first time possibly ever.
I mean, certainly in the last 5, right? We've seen the last 5 matches have all gone in favor of Optic Gaming, and now Complexity, they break that streak, they break that curse. And Optic have to go back to the drawing board here.
With Quadrant on the horizon, Complexity have already got the job done so far, and they've only got the open bracket team to worry about now. So they might be sitting pretty there. And like you say, stealing that second seed could be pivotal in their performance and in their results at the end of this tournament, excuse me.
I mean, job done, day done for Complexity. Smiles all round. They know they can just sit back, kick up the feet, relax, and start to think about that open team you were talking about. And I'm sure they'll be watching very interestingly towards the likes of Quadrant to see how they do against Optic Gaming as well.
Well, Dan, we spoke about if RyaNoob had won this series, how he would have some things to say.
Yeah.
So it's no surprise to me that he is standing beside Blaze and gave him a fist bump, and he's definitely got some things to speak about.